Well, what is happening in response to the sexualization of children? Joining us now to talk about it is our friend Barbara Kay, columnist for the Epoch Times and other places, and co-author of a book on transgenderism and what it's doing to women's sports called Unsporting. Barbara, great to see you again.
Lovely to be here, Ezra. Thanks for having me.
You know, I think that the conservative movement had made its peace with gay rights. And even Christian conservatives, I think, if there was a moral battle to be fought, I don't think it was on gay rights in general or even gay marriage. But I think that the sexualization of children and the deliberate keeping that away from parents, I think that's a bridge too far, not just for conservatives, but I think for severely normal people who don't even consider themselves political. What do you think?
Well, I think you're quite right that the T and the Q, which are now interchangeable, because the transgender movement is a function of, it's a subset of the queer movement. Yes, they definitely have in mind to normalize sexuality that no traditional-minded person would ever sanction, and they are definitely getting into the minds. Getting into the minds of young children is something that I agree with you that has caused support for LGB to drop, because they will not disassociate themselves from the T and the Q. And these taboos are being broken routinely, and they're being presented as, if you don't support this, then you are a bigot, or you're hateful, or you're right-wing, or you're whatever. But normalizing children's awareness and being sort of inaugurated or initiated into what used to be the mysteries of sexuality, which should remain a mystery to 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds. They consider it they frame it in tropes of it's a child's right to know. It's a child's right to know about sexual pleasure. It's a child's right to be engaged in all this whole, like they frame it as they're doing the kids a favor. So, and also in terms of diversity and inclusion, when they present Drag Queen Story Hour, if you're against these grotesque parodies of women, interacting, these male grotesque parodies of children interacting and sometimes touching with children, or having them touch, oh, would you like to touch my hair? Would you like to touch my dress? It's a way of getting children to drop their natural diffidence in the presence of strangers, and to sort of, to keep their distance from phenomena that don't seem, or that they're a little nervous around. Mm-hmm. So they wanted the kids to get very accustomed to being in this presence, and to consider the sexualized content of some of these stories to be, quite normal. Look at the drag queen go swish, swish, swish with the, the hip. Like, all of that is, people say it's grooming. It is grooming. And of course they get very angry when you say that, because, and then they label you a hateful transphobe, but I don't care anymore. Mm-hmm.
I mean, even the LGBT, let's just talk about that for one more minute. L is lesbian, gay, yeah. G is gay. Both of those are, I guess you could call them sexual orientations. T is not an orientation. T is transgender. It's how you express how you look and what you call yourself. It's got nothing to do with your sexuality, actually. I remember when Ontario said there are now 6 genders, and I challenged people, and by the way, this is the law under Doug Ford, the Conservative Premier, and I challenge everyone to name me the 6 genders. Gay is not a gender. Homosexual, gay, lesbian, those are not genders. It's just such
they're all sex related. They're all biology related. And now comes along queer and transgender, which are theories that have to do with gender mysticism, I call it, because it's like, your true self, and it's totally unrelated to sex. And so it's the exact opposite of what LGB strived for, which was to have their biology rooted sexuality endorsed as normal, and they got that. Now you've got Q and T demanding that we endorse stuff that we don't consider normal, and we also consider anti or opposed to the rights of women and gays and lesbians, because some of their theories actively conflict with the very, with biological certainties that are at the root of the rest of us.
The other day I heard a speech by Dennis Kavanagh of the London-based Gay Men's Network. He said that the whole transgender movement is anti-gay. He said it was a war on gay men. Mm-hmm. He said, you don't even hear about gay rights anymore. Or he said that gay men are now put on a track to be carved up physically. That it's to take everyone who is either gay or lesbian or confused. And sometimes when you're a teenager, it's a confusing time. You got to sort things. Are you a tomboy? Are you a little effeminate? You're figuring things out. It's tough to be a kid. Puberty's tough. And what he said, and I had never heard it put that way before so forcefully, is instead of letting people be confused or be a tomboy or even being gay or whatever, you're taking them and you're doing irreversible medical things to them. And he called it a war on gay men, a war on young gay people. I had never heard it expressed that way before, but he's right. You never hear about gay rights anymore. Maybe it's because in law and in society, gay rights have been achieved, I suppose. But he saw it as not just an interesting add-on, LGB and T. He thought that the T was a threat to the G.
But I think it's also, it is. It is. I agree that it is an assault on gay men, because they fasten their attention a lot on effeminate boys, most of whom would grow up to be gay if they're left alone, and they encourage them to think of themselves as maybe, they're in the wrong body and they really want to be girls. But at the same time, it's also very anti-lesbian. I find the whole trans movement to be like a kind of an inverse of the men's rights movements that were actually bona fide, and they were actually campaigning for rights that they deserved, like equal parenting rights and all kinds of. They were upright men, good men, and I supported those movements. But now we have a movement of men that really don't like women because they want to be women. They know they're not women. They're angry at real women for insisting that real women have rights that trans women should not have, and they call them TERFs. And some of them are very abusive and very angry, and especially at lesbians who, theoretically, the queer theory tells them that if you're a lesbian, that you should be happy to have a relationship with a trans woman, because really, your attraction is not to their body, but to their gender, which is gender woo, for are you nuts? It is biological. Lesbians are lesbians because they are attracted to women's bodies. It couldn't be more clear. But then they get angry at they have a delusion. They have this fantasy. They want everybody to assent and affirm their delusion. The people that won't do it are, naturally they're transphobic. All I can say is dress how you want, the same as J.K. Rowling. Dress how you want, sleep with who you want, live your life. But don't compel me or any lesbian or any gay person to enter into your fantasy that gayness or lesbianism is about gender rather than sex.